My name is Gonzalo Pérez. I work for Plan Ceibal in Uruguay, and I will take you through what we do in Uruguay, implementing a technology program for inclusion and education. Plan Ceibal started in 2007, and today, there we go. And today, we have something like over 700,000 beneficiaries. Those are kids and teachers with laptops and tablets in connected schools across the public education system in Uruguay. Just to give you an idea of what we're talking about, Uruguay is a country of 3 million people. We have about 3,000 schools. Most of them are primary schools, about 400 are secondary schools, and we have connected them all, and we have given a computer to every kid from the age of 6 to the age of 15. The computers belong to the kids. They're theirs, they take them home, they use them. 3,000 schools. We also took the network out of the schools when we realized that students were going to the schools on Saturdays and Sundays, sitting outside in the afternoons to connect. The important thing was a network. We've worked in clubs and town squares. We've connected other places as well. Where were we? Why did we do this? I said inclusion. In 2007, we realized that only 5% of poor households had access to computers at home, whereas 55% of the richest households had computers at home. This 11-fold difference was the digital gap that we wanted to narrow. 7 years later, a year later, as you can see, the gap has been totally narrowed down. Even more importantly, in terms of age, the 6 to 13-year-old group, the difference in income of the households was extremely marked. Very, very few poor kids had computers at home. Most of the kids in rich households had computers at home. There was also even a very big gap in the old age pensioners group, and we'll look at that as well. 7 years later, the gap on kids is totally narrowed. And this is the result of Plan Ceibal. We also have a gap. The gap in over 65-year-olds is still there, and this year we're launching a plan directed to those people. But that's another conference. The network. The network is all important. As a rule, and as a rule there are exceptions, we did not give laptops to kids unless we connected the school first. Today we have a network that comprises fiber optics, ADSL, Edge, 3G, we're moving into 4G, WiMAX, even satellite. We still have something like 70 schools that are not connected to the electricity grid. But most of the schools have high availability, and most of the beneficiaries, not the schools, the beneficiaries are connected via broadband. If you're going to give laptops to kids are going to break them. It's important that you put up in place a system that repairs them. We didn't do this right at the beginning. We did it wrong. We thought that if a computer got broken, kids could take them to the post office. The post office would take it to a lab where we repair them. And we found out that kids don't do that, especially small kids. And the parents sometimes don't have time to do that, or they don't have the money to take a bus and go to where there's a post office. So we had to change that. Today, our availability of working computers at schools varies up and down. The last measurement we did in April, it was 75%, it was 78%. It's gone up since then. April is when kids have come back from the holidays, so there's slightly more computers being broken. But we have to set up a system where we visit every school once a month. We have fixed repair centers where kids can take the laptops. It's fundamental. Lots of technology programs have collapsed because they didn't think this through properly. Technology and pedagogy. Once we've set up the infrastructure. We connected the schools. We gave laptops to the kids. We're also giving tablets now to the small kids. We began to think seriously about pedagogy and how technology impacts pedagogy. We find out there's two things technology can do. One is fill a gap, and the other one is accelerate pedagogy. And our platforms and the content that we provide works in those two directions. So from the student's point of view, we have 6 main offerings. We've got more, but those are the 6 main ones, and we'll talk about it in a minute. Ceibal in English, the mathematics platform, the content management platform, education, video games and Olympics, the library, and digital labs. English. When we started in 2012, only about 33,000 kids in primary school in ages in grades 4 to 6 were receiving English classes, simply because there are not enough English teachers in Uruguay to meet the gap. We have over 100,000 students in those age groups. So what we decided to do was to, as we were rolling up the fiber optics network, we installed video conferencing stations in each school. These are high quality professional video conferencing facilities. And we rolled up an English for video conferencing program, and now we are reaching over 100,000 schools in that, over 100,000 students in that age group. It's 91% of the kids in that age group. Now, this is technology filling up a gap, not changing pedagogy. We had to invent with our partner, we had to invent a way of teaching through video conferencing. It's not exactly the same to teach English where the teacher is not there and there's a classroom teacher that doesn't speak English. It has its challenges, so we had to invent, but English is English. We are evaluating, this is the main program where we are actually directly involved in teaching, so we're evaluating and we're doing research on it, and the results that we found is that kids learn. It works. It works very well. It works just as well as teaching with teachers on the classrooms. Same level of exposure, 3 times a week, 1 video conference a week, and 2 classes a week with material developed. Kids learn. Mathematics. We began looking into adaptive platforms about 3 years ago. We were looking for one in mathematics and one in language. We haven't found one in language, so for all those venture capitalists and entrepreneurs around you, there is a market there for adaptive learning platforms for languages. They don't exist yet. In terms of mathematics, we started in 2013. The pickup has been steady through the years, but this year we're seeing a much steeper pickup. So we're beginning to get traction. This is a platform that has over 100,000 exercises or problems. It's adaptive, so it recognizes the level of skill of the student. If the student is good, it gives them more and more difficult stuff to do. If it's not good, if he's not that good, or he has areas of weaknesses, it slows down and it gives them exercises to refresh what he doesn't know. The growth has been quite impressive. CREA, this is a learning management system. It's the name that we give to the Schoology platform. We've rolled it up throughout the school system in Uruguay. We rolled it up last year, so the pickup was slow to start with, and immediately this year we're working at a totally different level. And this has grown even further over the last few months, couple of months. It's important because this is something that really makes life simple for teachers. This is a Facebook-like platform. It's easy. It creates good learning communities. They're closed. They're managed by the teachers. And even though we train teachers to do that, it's so like Facebook that it's really, really intuitive. Again, the growth has been impressive. Lab tests. We just heard a presentation about Maker's Lab. This is our attempt at that. We combined our offering of robotics, programming, video game creation, scientific sensors, audiovisual, editing and maneuvering, 3D printer projects. And that we combined in terms of the 21st century learning skills that we heard also about before, of collaboration, project-based learning, creativity, and interdisciplinary work. It's an offering mostly for secondary schools. It's on during school time and out of school time. So it works both during classes, during the IT classes, but also we've promoted the creation of lab tests outside school hours. And this is what teachers tell us that they notice. Creativity improves. A student learn to learn from mistakes. There's a lot of cooperative work going on. Students remain in classroom. One of the biggest problems we've got in Uruguay is kids do not finish school. Just to give you a horrific statistic, of those kids aged today between 18 and 20, only 30% have finished secondary school. This is the dramatic state of where we are. And this is one of the things that we need to resolve. So if we get things that keep kids in school and keeps them interested, this is a way to go. The libraries, again, using technology to fill a gap. Most students don't have access to books. Most school libraries don't have all the textbooks. Textbooks are scarce. So we did a deal with all the publishers, and we rent the books to put on our machines. Last year 2014 was the first year we rolled it up massively. 2015, we're seeing a massive growth. Why? Simply because we improved the reader. It was that simple. We had a bad reader, bad technology, trying to fill a gap, it didn't pick up. This year we improved on the technology, making life easier for the students and the teachers, and it's jumped massively. We do online mathematics Olympics, online chess Olympics, robotics competitions. We've got our educational video game platform. It's actually quite amazing to see when we do this Maths Olympics, the level of engagement. If somebody tells you kids don't like maths, don't believe them. Kids don't like maths when it's boring. When it's interesting, when there's a motivation, when there's something to work for, or when it's fun, kids love maths. I'll give you as an anecdote. One of the competitions that we run, I went to give a prize to this kid, this 11-year-old kid. I got to the school and I said, look, I'm here to give Dennis, forget his surname, a tablet because he won the mathematics competition for kids in grade 5, I think it was. And the director said, oh, Dennis the menace. Dennis the troublemaker. Dennis the one that is always finishing in the principal's office because he misbehaves in the classroom. So I said, what do you do when you send them to the principal's office? What does he do? He takes his laptop and he does maths. And he won the competition. This is a kid that was bored stiff in the classroom and found his way to learn using technology. From the teacher's point of view, the same offering gives a lot of advantages. The education platform management system, allows for information reporting and allows for planning. It's a repository for digital resources. We provide teacher training, of course. It provides project-based learning, and we just saw what importance that is. We are part of a global learning environment, and I'll talk about that in a second. We have a video conferencing network that is not only used for English, it's also used for teacher training. It's used for meetings. It's used for conferences, used by the teachers themselves. They can use it themselves. And in particular, it allows for the personalization of education, which is where technology's true potential lies. In terms of online evaluation, Uruguay had a tradition of formative, across-the-board evaluations. They were done a couple of times a year on paper. There was a lot of trees destroyed to do that. A big logistics exercise to move all those forms and tests from one part of the country to another. Oftentimes, the results came back to each teacher when the year was over, so when the class had moved on. It wasn't useful. By putting it online, we make sure that each teacher gets the results of his class the moment the last student finishes the test. So it's immediate. It's available exactly when the teacher needs it. This started as a voluntary exercise, and now pretty much the whole of primary school is using it. We heard from Mario about the skills for the 21st century. We call them deep learning. We're part of a global network which comprises several countries. You see them up there, that are trying to find out how technology can promote deep learning, 21st century skills. 21st century skills are the ones that we all know. There's nothing, they're the ones that as we've heard, are fundamental to getting ready for the challenges that we will have in the future. The only one that we've added there is the educational use of ICT for all the reasons that Mario talked about, but it's fundamental. Nobody has the answer. No, everybody's working to develop it, so there's no right or wrong solutions. That's why we're working in this network. And of course, as a digital planning system, as I said, we're using the Schoology platform. Institutional, why does it work in Uruguay? First of all, we're a small country. But even big countries do this, and if they do it properly, and if they do it just like eating an elephant, one bite at a time. The institutional arrangement that we have in Uruguay is for this kind of program, is quite innovative. We have quite a schizophrenic institutional setup for education. We have a Ministry of Education, we have an independent and autonomous schools authority, and we created Plan Ceibal also outside. Simply because the skills needed to think about a program like this, to staff it, to run it, were not available in either of those two institutions. We focus on cost and sustainability, and I'll talk about cost in a second. The role of technology is very clear to us. The day we will say we were successful is the day technology is used just like a teacher uses the electricity, the lights. A teacher walks into the classroom, turns the lights on, there's technology. He hasn't seen it, it's transparent to what he's going to do in that classroom. The day that we're using computers and laptops and tablets and the internet in the same way, we will have succeeded. We're young, 34, even with me in board. Cost and sustainability. Plan Ceibal today costs $103 per student per year. That's over 4 years, of course, because we exchange the laptops, we renew the laptops every 4 years. So for $103 per year, we give them a laptop, we give them free technical service, so we repair the laptops, we give them all the things that we've talked about. $103 can be expensive or can be cheap. It depends on only one thing, on how much the country is investing in educating those kids. In Uruguay, the government spends $2,000 per student in primary and middle school. So $100 is 5% of that. So that makes it economic. That makes it reasonable. If Uruguay was spending half as much, only $1,000, and Plan Ceibal costed 10% of that budget, it would be extremely expensive. Thank you very much.